I'm going to try to do a little 3-minute segment here on making mink snares. Here we have a mink snare, and one of the first things that I want to explain to people, because I get a lot of questions from viewers here on Trapperman, is that when you make a mink snare and you actually set it, you do not want that loop size any bigger than 3 inches. 2.5, 3, 3.5, right in there. About 3 inches is about what I use. And the other thing I want to show you is 2 to 3 fingers off of the ground is the way that you set that snare. If you make a loop any bigger than 3 inches and any higher than that, you're going to end up missing a lot of mink. So, with that said, we want to show a little something here on loading a mink snare and doing it properly. When you make a mink snare, you want that snare to be really quick. As soon as the mink hits that with his chest, he bumps it with his chest, you want that snare to close. You want it spring loaded. And by loading that snare is how you do that. Now we're going to show a little something here. When I make my mink snares, I use 1/16 cable. I know a lot of these guys are trying to use a smaller cable, but I can tell you one thing from experience. If you start using that smaller cable and you don't have the right environment, you're not a experienced snareman, or you don't have a good swivel on there, you're going to end up losing some mink. So I would suggest most guys to go with a 1/16. Here you have you see this piece of 1/16 cable in the lock. There's several different types of locks you can use. This one actually has a Gregerson lock, and the thing that I want to show you is when you're loading this cable, when you end up, this cable is going to end up looking like this. And what you're doing is you can take just a regular 16 penny nail or 20 penny nail, drive it horizontal into, just like this, nail into a board, and you're taking this, you've got your little aluminum ferrule stop on here, but you're taking this and you're going one way. I've seen guys do it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth over the nail. I don't do it that way. I do it one way, one way, one way, just like I'm trying to turn a steering wheel on a car. And I put a little pressure on it. It's better to do it than look at it and then have to do it again, look at it, that's not enough, do it again, and do it again, rather than seesaw back and forth and ruin the cable, because that cable will kink on you if you're not experienced in doing that. That said, once you take this cable, your cable is going to end up looking like this. And that's what we have here. And then let me show you what happens here when this cable is like this. I'm going to run this cable back through the lock. This is a Gregerson lock here. And this cable right here, here's your about your 3-inch loop. And like I said, once that mink touches that cable's loaded, it just wants to take off. Once that mink hits that, you see how fast that is. When you load cable that way, this is a little bit bigger than I'd like of it. When you load that cable that way, once that cable touches that, it springs shut. Now, just to show you how loaded this cable is, I'm going to cause this lock to go up, straight up. Now, anybody can take a lock in this position and hit it or tilt it here and cause it to fire. But if this cable is properly loaded for mink, that cable, when I just barely touch this lock will shoot up. You see, this way is straight up. Now watch this. You see how that went? That cable, that lock's going straight up. Now, of course, I position the mink snare this way. Oh, I don't want anybody to misunderstand me, but I'm saying that the cable is so loaded that this lock, just at the slightest touch, will jump upward. So I hope that helps you guys that are making your own snares, about loading your mink snares. And of course your swivel is going to go right here. And the other thing I wanted to talk about the swivel, just briefly. When you have a swivel, and this is the ones that I'm using here, you see this little swivel. This is used in the fishing industry, and I'm not sure what the breaking strength on this is, but a mink will not break this. The thing that I want to explain to people is, if you have a lock that is not close to your loop, you want that lock this close or I mean the swivel. You want the swivel this close to your lock. You see how close that is? Here's the lock, here's the loop, there's the swivel. You don't want to swivel all the way back here. Of course, this is an anchoring swivel here, but if you want a mid-chain swivel, because when that mink gets caught, he's going to roll and roll and roll and roll and roll and roll and roll. And you want that swivel perfectly working, and you want it as close to the mink, the snared mink, as possible. So, hope that helps you guys with your mink snares. And like I said, if you load your cable, just as I've showed you here, like I said, your cable is going to look like that. When you load it properly, your mink snares are going to jump as soon as the mink touches that. Hope this helped, guys. Take care.